sent Renee the slides, she said, Eric, that's a lot of stuff to cover in 50 minutes. And I said, I know, but you gave me 3 of the most challenging things that you can do. Launch, manage, and market your business. And you have to give me 50 minutes to do it in. She said, I've heard you speak. You can cover that in 50 minutes, I promise you. So let's get started. First of all, I am Eric Mulford. I have spent the last more than 20 years being a national sales manager, national sales trainer, and then working as a marketing manager for 2 different companies. And also some things I can't tell you about because I'm still protected by a non-compete license. And so I'll have to remain silent about those. Somebody asked me out in the hallway a minute ago, I said, I can't tell you. I'm sorry, I just can't tell you. You know, in a town that's highly secretive, I guess we can get away with that. But today I have a company called Knollworks, and Knollworks is responsible for providing coaching and consulting to small businesses, startups, and we also have just a little bit of an app development system as well that we work on. So that's who I am. Let's get started here. We want to talk about business. The essence of business is to solve other people's problems at a profit. Guess who said that? Me. Okay. The purpose of a business is to get and keep a customer. Somebody said, you can't put quotation marks around that unless it's a direct quotation. I said, yeah, I said it. So that's, you know, the purpose of a business is get and keep a customer. Brian Tracy said that, and it's a brilliant comment, because if we don't get a customer, we really don't have a business. We're not solving a problem at a profit if we don't have a customer. So we have to get and keep a customer. And I always remind people that get and keep, because the keeping part is extremely important. So this is what you're going to learn. As I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible, this is what you'll learn. You'll learn what makes a business a business. I know that seems really simple, but what makes a business is really important, and sometimes we forget it. We're going to take a look at what your business focus should be. What should we put our focus on? And where do we place that focus, and how do we do it properly? And I'm going to tell you, most people, in the early years of their business, like the first 5, 6, or 7 years of their business, and sometimes 50 years of their business, put their focus in the wrong place. The next thing is how your business can change the world. Now, I honestly believe that we're not put here just to make money. I think we're put here to make a difference. And so I believe that we live in a time when we have the greatest opportunity to change the world with the business that we have. The next thing, and we were talking about nonprofits a while ago, nonprofit is an area where it's solely devoted for the purpose of changing the world. There's no reason why that shouldn't be true for everything. The 3 most powerful words for an entrepreneur, and I promise you, you're not going to guess what they are, but I'm going to tell you what they are, okay? You'll learn the 3 most powerful words for an entrepreneur. You'll learn the power of problem solving. Those are the things we're going to talk to you about today. There has never been a better time in history for us to make an impact. That's the reason why I say change the world. There's never been a better time in history for us to make an impact. You can use your role in business to change the world. We are here at a conference where there's a number of people who are talking about people with disabilities. Well, if we can put those people to work, and I don't like that word, those people, please understand when I say that, I don't know how else to identify that. I'm very uncomfortable with that. But if we put that portion of the population to work, we'll make a huge difference in their world, and I can promise you, in ours. All right? Now's the time to walk in integrity, to serve a higher purpose, to fill a higher role, and to earn a higher income. We've not allowed ourselves the permission to do that, but we have a chance to do it now. Success always leaves clues, but there's a problem that comes with that. This is the problem. We don't talk about the clues, we only talk about the success. That's the biggest issue that we have. We talk about people's success, we don't talk about the clues that got them there. We never talk about the failures. We never talk about the struggles. We don't talk about the issues that they run into. And if we don't talk about those things, then we fail to recognize the clues and people get frustrated. At the end of this workshop, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity to work with me. All right? I'm going to share with you what I'm going to talk about, but I just wanted to let you know that when we get finished with this workshop, I'm going to give you an opportunity to work with me for 3 months. This is how I got here. In 1990, my whole world collapsed. Went through some real personal struggles in 1990. I had some personal challenges. I had some things that I really struggled with. And I knew from the time I was 15 years old, I knew what I was here to do. But I got started in a different direction. Just like so many people do, you know? You get this encouragement, well, you would make a really good. The problem is I'd really stink at it. But everybody thinks you would be really good at this, you know? So you get this encouragement to go in this direction, and you go in that direction, and the next thing you know, you're like, is this really where I belong? And so that's what the realization I came to in 1990. By the way, I had been out of school for a long time by 1990. Just so you know, in case you were wondering, that was not a high school graduation awareness. Probably looked like that, but that was not what happened. So, I always call this my bucket experience. When I was 15 years old, I'm sitting in the barn talking to my dad. And my dad was old school. You know, I'm 60 years old. My dad was old school. He'd been around for a while, and so we didn't have monologues, we had dialogues. He talked, I listened. You know, that's how it went, and that's how it always was. And we're sitting in the barn, I'm sitting on a bucket. He's exhausted me. I've worked my tail off. And he said, Eric, it's obvious to me that God has given you a gift. Cool, that's the first compliment I've gotten in 15 years. That's pretty good. And so I'm sitting there on this bucket savoring this experience, thinking, that's pretty cool. My dad's giving me a compliment. You know, that's the first time ever, and I'm feeling pretty good about myself. And then he stood up, he walked over, he kicked the bucket out from underneath me, and he said, anybody can be an empty-headed chatterbox. Go learn something. So that's where I've been ever since. I've been in the process of learning something. Now, I have this little map that went through my head that happened to me in 1990. In 1990, I began to pursue a career in sales. And I want to show you what I did when I started that career in sales. I set out to be the best sales rep. And every morning I would get up in the morning and I would go look in the mirror because I really believe in personal affirmations. Does anybody else believe in personal affirmations? I think they're incredibly powerful. I think we ought to do them. And I would go look in the mirror and I would say, I'm going to be the best sales rep. And guess what happened? Nothing. Nothing. I worked hard, I tried hard, I did all the right stuff. I went and hung out with Billy May for a week. Anybody remember Billy May? Oh, come on. But wait, there's more. You remember that guy? With the bad hair and the black beard? Yeah, that was him. I wouldn't have hung out with him for a whole week. I thought it'd get better if I hung out with Billy May, you know? I mean, you never know when you're going to sell an auger. And so, I worked hard at it. And then one day, I realized I needed to change my language from I'm going to be to I am. And I would stand and look in the mirror and say, I am the best salesperson on the planet. Not in the county, not in the city, on the planet. I always have lofty dreams, you know? But something happened to me when I did that. And I began, my career began to skyrocket. And I discovered something important that I'm going to tell you in just a minute, because then I run into another problem. I became a sales trainer. That was really cool. Now I get to tell other people how to do what I've done. And I would tell myself, I'm going to be the best sales trainer ever. And I would pick people. I mean, I drove around for a year with the ugly face of Jeffrey Gitomer laying on the passenger seat of my car saying, I'm going to be better than him. I'm going to be better than him. And then one day I realized, I'm doing the same thing I did before. And I changed my language to, I am the best. And I've been told that many times. As long as I was saying I'm going to be, I never got told that. It wasn't until I changed the language that things began to change. So let me tell you a story about a couple of guys. The lights came on, and then I began to really make a difference in other people's lives. I'll get this story to you guys in just a minute, because this is what happened. As soon as I learned those three words, when I began to act as if. Not fake it till you make it, because that's baloney. I don't believe that. It makes me uncomfortable. It makes you sound phony. I don't care about that at all. But when you start to act as if, things change. And I mean they changed drastically. They almost changed for me overnight because I began to approach things differently. Let's see what happens. When I started to act as if, I realized that there was no problem I couldn't solve. Didn't mean that I had all the answers. But if you put yourself out as the best, guess what happens? You have to do it. Right? If you tell yourself, I'm the best, then you have to perform. If you're saying, I'm faking it until I make it, then you got an excuse for failing. Y'all with me? Then shake your head like I realized there was no problem I couldn't solve. Now, we heard a great piece of advice a while ago, and that was you can't solve everything. Sometimes you hire somebody, right? Now, but is that okay? Something happened when I was walking across the atrium a while ago. You know, my ego always gets in the way. She said she was going to the Patriot Ring. And I said, I heard there was a really good-looking guy that was going to do the presentation in there, too. And this gentleman went, yeah, right. It's like, what is the matter with this guy? But when she walked in, she told me what she wanted to do. What did I do immediately? I connected you. I gave you connections with two different groups of people, two different people or two different groups of people that could be beneficial to you, right? That's what somebody who is the best does. I recognized somebody can do it better, and I gave it to them. It's the right thing to do. And from that point on, what do? Then you trust me. You say, that guy must know his stuff. I just know people who know their stuff. And that's pretty cool. So, act as if I realized there was no problem I couldn't solve. So let me tell you a story about three people. The first one, let me mention Steve by name, because how many of you have ever seen a Snap-on tool truck? You know what a Snap-on tool truck is? Snap-on Tools used to send their sales reps out in this elaborate truck that had all the tools inside of it, and they would come to the automotive shops, the mechanic shops, all those places, and they would bring those tools and they would demonstrate the tools and they would make sales. It was a great gig. Snap-on decided to give that tool truck away to the first rep ever. Got a free truck if he sold $100,000 worth of goods. That doesn't sound like a lot today, but in 1969, $100,000 in sales was a lot of sales. Steve had a really tiny territory, and he had a really tiny tool that he was allowed to sell. He had the screwdriver division. I'm not talking about this kind of screwdriver, I'm talking about this kind of screwdriver. And Steve was the first person ever to sell $100,000 in screwdrivers, and got a Snap-on tool truck, got a gold watch, name is in the Snap-on Hall of Fame. Incredible guy. I hire him as a sales rep. Because if you're going to be the best, what do? You hire the best, right? We've already heard that this morning. So I hire Steve to be my rep. One day, Steve and I are driving down the road, and he says, I have a problem. He said, I haul all this stuff around. I still got that Snap-on tool mentality. This is in 1999. And he said, I'm still hauling all this stuff to every place. And I show up, and he said, it's costly now. I got a 1-ton van. I'm hauling all this stuff. I'm setting up and doing a demo. And I said, well, let's fix that. Now, this guy, this is a sales rock star. You got to be somebody in 1969 to sell $100,000 of screwdrivers, right? Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he goes, what are we going to do? I said, watch. Picked up the phone and I called Brian's Tools. That's why Brian's Tools is on here. I picked up the phone, called Brian's Tools, and I talked to Bob at Brian's Tools. Bob was the son of Brian, and so I called Bob. And I said, Bob, what if we do this? You'll learn how powerful those words are in just a minute. I said, what if instead of coming and demonstrating our product to your clients, what if we come and we do a workshop where we certify them as this? And he goes, cool. I said, could you charge them $250 for that? We give them a certification when they go back Their employer will pay for them to come and they'll get certified to do this. He goes, yeah, we could do that. I said, would you be willing to split it with us? Sure. I said, how many people can you put in the room? He said, 30. 30 at $250 a pop. Now Steve's complained about hauling all the tools around. It's like, yeah, let's go do this. So here's the interesting thing is that if Steve sold everything that he had in the van to a single buyer, sold everything in the van, he would make about $250. So he had to sell 2 people in order to get what he was going to get for being here. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It gets better. 27 people show up. We leave and Steve goes, I'm going to get paid for demos. You know what it cost us? A piece of paper. We made a certification up. We went over to the Office Depot. We printed it out, wrote their name in it, and we were acting as if we could certify them. You know why? Because nobody else did. No problem you can't solve. Got that? Makes all the difference in the world. So, fast forward a little bit. I have a young man, he's 20 years old. Takes one of my sales training programs here in Huntsville, in downtown 5 Points. I've got a room full of people in downtown 5 Points, and I'm teaching a sales training program in 5 Points. This young man's name is Adam, and Adam is there, and Adam is listening and paying attention to everything. He's sitting and listening to every word. Kind of like you all. Could be. And he's paying attention to everything. And we get ready to leave for lunch. Get up and walk out. I start to walk out the door. And Adam looks at me and goes, are you 100 years old? No, Adam, I'm not 100 years old. Why do you say that? He said, because you just have one story after another. Said, how do you haven't lived long enough to have all those stories. I said, Adam, if you'll pay careful attention to me, you'll have your own stories. I left, Adam went off to work. And I'm in Jasper, Alabama, with a sales rep. And I come back and my phone I've got 5 messages from Adam. Mr. Eric, you won't believe this. I have a story. Let me tell you what the story is. He grasped the as-if principle like nobody I've ever seen before. And he walked into a business in Decatur, and the owner there beat him up. I mean, turned him inside out, upside down, and backwards. And Adam said, I just acted like it happens every day. What was he doing? He was acting as if this was normal. The owner of the business throws him out. And then called him the next day and said, you're exactly what I've been looking for. You know why? He wanted to see if he was tough enough to handle it. Adam's been working for him for 7 years now. This 20-year-old boy who went to work as a sales rep in this guy's company, making $65,000 a year plus commission. He couldn't count to 65. Doesn't sound like a lot? That was a lot to a 20-year-old kid. You're exactly what I've been looking for. My wife and I are driving across the state of Nebraska, which there's nothing in the state of Nebraska.
Dogs are scared of Nebraska. There's no trees.
The birds fly around and die in the sky because there's no place to land. Yeah. There's just nothing in Nebraska. So we're driving across Nebraska, and I get a phone call from Roger in Houston, Texas. It's about noon, and we're just about to Lincoln, Nebraska, and we're headed to Kansas City. And he said, Eric, I need you to be in Houston in the morning. I can't even get to the airport in Kansas City and get a plane in time to get there. He said, who do I need to call? I want you in Houston by 8:30 in the morning because we've got a presentation to make. We have a presentation to make. Roger, you have an $8.5 million a year sales business. Why do you need me to make a presentation for you? And he said, I expect you to be there at 8:30 in the morning. I'll pick you up. I make some phone calls. I get the arrangements made. I end up getting on an airplane, ran home, dumped my suitcase, tried to find, I've been gone for 15 days, trying to find something I could put in the suitcase and take it with me to Houston. I end up having to buy a shirt from George Bush's tailor in Houston, Texas, because I don't even have a shirt I can wear. And he held the shop open for me. It was an amazing trip. And when Roger picks me up, he throws in my lap the directions to a place called ICED, ICED, which stands for the International Center for Entrepreneurial Development. And I look at the directions, and he says, you tell me how to get there. This is back when all you had was Google map that you could print off, not when you had a GPS. So I'm looking at this Google map, and it gives me some directions, and then it says follow local roads. You know, that was Google's famous comment was follow local roads. So I'm looking at this, and I noticed that the address, so now I'm looking at the address is 1 Copy Center Way. Well, in downtown Houston, you don't get to have an address of 1. You just don't. Unless you own a major chunk of real estate in Houston, Texas. And if you do, it's kind of like owning the state of Montana. And we find this place, and we drive in the driveway, and there's a guy there that meets us in the drive, and he says, go on down, it's the 3rd building on the right. And I look down the road, the 3rd building on the right is a replica of the Alamo. When that's your office, we're in someplace special. No wonder he called me and asked me to come. But then I thought, what am I doing here? So we walk in. Bud is the man of name. Walk up the stairs. I see Bud's office over here. I stick my head in the door and I say, hey, I'm Eric. I'm here. I guess I'm supposed to meet with some people here. He says, hey, look, I've already told them that you're coming and you'll be able to fix whatever's going on. I expect you to do that, and I'll write the check.
No pressure.
Okay. You act as if, and it makes a difference. So let me give you 7 steps on the path to success. If you're going to launch a business, if you're going to start a product, if you're going to market your business, if you're going to manage your business, 7 things you have to do. It doesn't make any difference what they are. It doesn't make any difference what stage you're in, whether it's launch, whether it's a product development, or what it is. These 7 steps, these are the things I teach everybody how to do when I coach a personal client. These 7 steps, and I'm going to go through them very quickly. You discover a problem that you're uniquely gifted, qualified, and talented to do. You formulate the solution. You test the solution, the concept, the marketing, the message, the method, whatever it happens to be. You create an MVP that solves. You sell the prototype. You listen to the feedback, and you pivot. Let me get into those in detail. The purpose of a business is to do what? Solve other people's problems at a profit. And so let's talk about solving that problem. How do we discover that? Because it doesn't make any difference what the problem is. If you're launching a business, you're supposed to be solving the problem, right? If you're adding a product, hopefully that product is intended to solve a problem. Otherwise, it's just a product that's going to sit on the shelf someplace. If you're marketing a service, you got to focus on this as a problem that I'm solving, right? How about if you're managing your business? You approach it as a problem to be solved. If you get in the habit of solving problems, it's amazing what happens. So step 1 is you have to discover the problem. And you figure out what you're uniquely gifted and talented to do. That's extremely important. If you don't have that piece in place, then you have to hire somebody who is. Are y'all with me? But it's this first step. If you don't figure out what you can do, I mean, I coach at a place sometimes where they teach a QuickBooks class, and I say, you're crazy. Let somebody else do your books. That's why those people went to accounting class. I'm surprised that we don't have people going accounting instead of postal. 2, formulate the solution. Focus on the problem. What's the problem that you're solving? I have people all the time say, I have this business idea. Well, what problem does it solve? I'm not sure. Then all you have is an idea. And I have a phrase that I call it. I call it a flying bicycle. Because my nephew, when he was in 5th grade, he wanted to invent a flying bicycle. I said, cool, what are we going to do about places where they have power lines? And he said, we just won't sell bicycles there. Okay, so what problem is this going to solve? I don't know, but it'd be really cool to pedal and have a propeller work. Okay, figure that out. Look at it from the other person's perspective. Do people really want to fly on a bicycle? Probably not. Figure out what you contribute. What do you contribute to the solution? And then finally, how unique is your solution? Because if it's, oh, I have that too, it's marginally effective. Right? So you formulate the solution. Number 3, you test the solution concept. What if, and these are my favorite, I used this phrase earlier. This is my favorite phrase. When you're testing out the solution. What if we could, and whatever the solution is, what if we could do this? That's what I did at ICE. I walked in and I said, what if we could do this? And I pointed at the broker and I said, would you do that? And he said, yes. I pointed to the HR director. I said, would you do that? And she said, yes. I pointed to the agent that I was there with. I said, would you do this? And he said, yes. I said, then it sounds like we can do that. I'm done. Got him walked out. She said, wait a minute, I need to hug and kiss you. Cool. Or, how about this one? Do you think it would help if? See, that's when you find out if it's a problem or not. Right? You got to test the solution concept. Number 2, is this something that you would, and my favorite one is, pay for? Right? It's solving other people's problems at a profit. Is this something that you would pay for? Because if it's not something that people would pay for, it's not a business. Right? That's how you test the concept. I had a young man show up the other night at a meetup that I did, and he said, I have this business idea, and he said, I've got it almost developed. He said, I said, so who have you talked to about it? He said, I haven't talked to anybody. I said, really? So you don't know if anybody's interested? Oh yeah, they have to be interested. No, they don't. You have to expand on this just a little bit. Test the solution. He said, well, I'll test it as soon as I get it done. No, you won't. Not if you're going to go through my steps. Is it something that you would, what would it be worth? I always want to find out, what would this be worth? What would this be worth to you? If we could do this, what would it be worth to you? Because that's when I find out whether people actually pay for it or not. So the step 4 is you create an MVP that solves. It has to be functional but not finished. My favorite phrase, functional but not finished. Functional but not finished. It works, but it's not perfect. You know why? There's a law. There's a fundamental law that's at work in our world, and it's been at work in our world for centuries. It's called the law of obsolescence. Whatever you have right now is in the process of becoming obsolete. Are you doing that digitally? We used to do it on film, right? The companies that stuck with film are no longer in business unless they move to digital. Whatever you have, I promise you, it's in the process of becoming obsolete. I don't care how cutting edge it is. I don't care where you're at. I ask people just as they're getting ready to launch a product, so what are you going to do next? Because if you don't have a next plan, I got news for you. Somebody else does. Don't believe that? Ask Blockbuster. Functional but not finished. That means that it's in the process of becoming obsolete. I'm either improving it or I'm moving away from it. Something that you can test with the public. I'm going to give you the best test of all in just a minute. It's step number 5. Something that you can test with the public. I have to have something that's functional but not finished so I can test it with the public. Something that I can demonstrate to investors. How's somebody going to invest money? I don't care if it's your grandmother. How's somebody going to invest money in this thing if you don't have it? You know, I was talking a while ago about the 2 types of sales industries that I've been in. One of them I called scratch and sniff, because you could demonstrate it. Well, you know, I went to, I was involved in in developing a product one time that was the greatest exterior door finish ever. I mean, it was an amazing product. I had a grand total of 2 gallons of it. I took drums, 5-gallon buckets, and 1-gallon buckets, and put labels on the outside of them and took them to the International Woodworking Festival in Atlanta, Georgia. People came from all over the world. And I had just enough to demo while I was there. The rest of it, it was functional but not finished. And that day, I sold 5 totes. Anybody know how much a tote contains? 240 gallons. I sold 5 totes. Only thing we had ever manufactured was 2 gallons. Functional, but not finished. Now, if you want to get highly motivated to get into production, sell 1,000 gallons of something that you've only ever made 2. You have to have something that you can demonstrate to the investors. Then you sell the prototype. You take that functional but not finished thing and you sell it. Because the greatest test of all is if people pay for it. I have people all the time say, well, I'm giving it away to see what people think about it. If you give it away to see what people think about it, you'll never know what they think about it. You have to sell it. Otherwise, you don't really know. Because if somebody gave you something and says, tell me what you think about this, what are they going to do? They may or may not take a look at it. They may or may not give you an honest opinion. They might tell you a bunch of stuff that they think you want to hear, but they've never really done it. If they paid for it, they paid for it. It makes a difference. So this is what happens if you do that. It helps you to create development capital. If I sell 10 people on a product at $1,000 a pop, I now have $10,000. I also have a deadline that it's got to be beyond functional and closer to finished. Does that make sense? But I have capital I can do that on. We sold 5 totes. Guess what? Manufacturing that 1,000 gallons was not hard. Because now we got the capital to do it with. So you sell the prototype, and that allows you to test the market. That's the greatest test of all, is selling the prototype. It also allows you to test your system. Are people able to order it? Are they able to download it? Or are they able to get it? Or are they able to use it? It allows you to test the system that you have for delivering. Because remember, the purpose of a business is to get and keep a customer. And so you have to have a system in place to keep a customer. Then you listen to the feedback. If they paid for it, the feedback's going to be honest. Right? I paid too much for this. Or, this was a bargain. They start to give you that kind of feedback. My favorite story about this is Steve Jobs there's an interview with him from 1997, and he said, I'm sitting in the press box at the Super Bowl, the year that we did the Super Bowl promotion for the Apple computer. And he said, I'm sitting in the press box, and at this point, we don't know where this is going to go. We just we built this Apple computer, we're getting ready to launch it into the market, we're not really sure where we're going to go with this. And he said, I look up, and our commercial goes up on the Jumbotron. And he said, I was so excited, and then all of a sudden my heart sank. He said, it's not my idea anymore. It now belongs to the public. And they're going to take this company wherever they want it to go, or we're going to be out of business. It's the greatest interview ever. And they had to listen to the feedback. There has to be a system in place for collecting feedback. This is the thing that people forget. Make sure you have a way of getting feedback from people so that you know what they think. Reward them for their feedback. And guess what you do? You always get more of what you reward, right? So you'll get better feedback when you do that. Have a system for evaluating the feedback. Sit down and look at it. If somebody says this sucks, then take into consideration it might suck. Right? Listen and evaluate the feedback. Respond when you get the right kind of feedback. Hey, we took a look at this. thought it was your suggestions were really good, and so we moved in this direction. Instead of it coming out in bright orange, it's now in a soft pastel blue, or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So you listen to the right feedback, you respond to the right feedback. Number 7, then you pivot. Pivot is an important term. Pivot is that place where I recognize that the direction that I'm going in, I need to move from. Just a little bit. Maybe it's a lot. Maybe it's just a little bit. Maybe it's just a 1 foot movement. But the pivot is important because this is when your idea gets shaped by the feedback. You want to have happy customers? Let them know you're listening. Secret to business. Make sure that you pivot and your idea gets shaped by the feedback. Learn to modify your plans. I had a guy who had this great product. It was an amazing product. He took it and had the product tested. He had an 85-page report on the chemistry of his product. And he said, man, when people read this, they're going to want this like crazy. And I said, who's going to read it? Nobody's going to read an 85-page report. You need to put that in a half-page post. I can't do that. This is too valuable. You're not paying any attention. You're not willing to modify your plans. Allows you to move in a new direction. One of the things that I've done my entire career has been to take a company that had a product and introduce them to new markets. Markets they'd never dreamed of. And I got really, really good at it. And I was at that International Woodworking Festival in Atlanta, Georgia, and 2 guys from an epoxy company come up to me. So you're Eric. I love that kind of comment. No, you've got me confused with some other good-looking guy. That's probably not it. Yes, I'm Eric. So we understand you know more about our product than we do. I didn't even sell their product. That was the best compliment I ever got in my life. Because it's the understanding we can move in a new direction. We can take this thing, we move in a new direction. Because moving in a new direction may open up all kinds of new doors. Because if you're thinking that this product is ideally fitted for this market, guess what? 12 other people are thinking exactly the same thing. But if you can create another vertical market for that nobody's tapped into, how valuable is that? I don't have time for this stuff. Y'all have to ask me later. This is what I do. My coaching program takes the magical power of acting as if and applies it to those 7 steps. This is what I want you to do if you're interested. Take your phone and go to that website right there, ericsaid.com/now. Renee asked me to make sure that I do this. So you go to that website, put in your email, your name and your email address, and it'll be taken to another site. And I'll show you what's going to happen there in just a moment. Because before I go, there's some things I want to make sure that you do. I want to give you something that can be valuable. Those 7 steps are important to you. They're just the tip of the iceberg. I'm going to give you 5 things here that I really want you to do no matter what. I don't care what you do with the offer that I'm going to make to you, but I want to make sure that you do these 5 things, okay? The first one is make sure you know your purpose. We have too many people who are struggling to do what they do because they're not really sure that they should be doing it. Make sure you know your purpose. You always want to know your purpose. Discover what problem that you're put here to solve. What problem can you solve? When I walked in the room a while ago, somebody noticed my logo at the bottom that said simple makes awesome easy. I decided a long, long time ago my purpose for being here was to make hard things simple. When I moved to Huntsville, Alabama, I changed that language slightly and I began to call it, my purpose is to take high tech and turn it redneck. Number 3, explore the most effective and efficient means of solving the problem. Whatever it is, that problem that you're here to solve. That's what I do. I try to figure out what's the most effective way of being able to communicate this to you. And then you start telling the world what you're doing. And until you tell the world you don't have a business, you don't have a product, you don't have anything until you start telling the world about it. And then number 5, create your means for delivering your solution. Talk to people all the time. How are you going to do this? I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. No, don't understand. You've got to be involved in that. How are you going to do this? I don't know. Those 5 things you have to do. I'm going to give you 3 things you should never do. All right? The first one is don't waste your time trying things. I hate the word try. I hate it. You know what we should do instead? Test things. There's a difference between trying things and testing things. Trying is like, I'm going to throw this against the wall and see if it sticks. Testing is, I'm going to do this. If it fails, I'm going to know why. Right? The too often quoted comment from his name just flew out. I'll come back to it. Don't waste your time trying things. Number 2, don't waste your money by acting without a plan. This is about marketing. Too many people try to market their business by buying advertising and they don't have a plan. Right? We heard a man say this morning that it really helps if you have a beautiful wife up on a billboard. You put this on the billboard, it won't help. It's just not good. I figured that out a long time ago.
A beautiful, smart wife.
What's that?
A beautiful, smart wife.
Yes, that helps if you have that. Number 3, don't waste your opportunity by waiting until you have a perfect plan. If you have a good idea, or if you have a great idea, you're not the only one who has it. And someone's going to beat you to the punch. First time I ever meet with, and I told you a while ago, we have a little app thing that we do. We have a little app development system, and first thing I do when I meet with the app development team is that I remind them, this is a race to the market. Somebody's going to beat us if you guys diddle around. I don't have a clue what y'all do. I don't. But I do know this, that if you take a day and you slack, somebody's going to beat us. My son was a track star, incredible track star, and rarely ever lost a race. Never lost a race till his senior year in high school. And then he lost to Maurice Green, who was 4 years later, became the world record holder in the 100-meter dash. He used to wear a shirt that he worked out in. He said somewhere somebody's practicing, and when you meet them in head-to-head competition, they'll beat you. And I remind my app guys of that all the time. Don't waste your opportunity by waiting until you have a perfect plan. Get that MVP out there first. 6 strategies for problem solving in business. I told you I was going to get to this. Here they are. 6 strategies for problems. Discover what you're gifted and talented and placed to do. When you work with me, this is what I help you to do. Help you to discover how you're going to determine what your market needs. A lot of people don't know what the market really needs. What the market didn't need was an 85-page report from a chemist. They needed to know why this works. How to create a system with your solution. Systems are a necessity. How to develop the MVP. I don't know how to build an app, and I know people who do. There's a lot of things I don't know how to do, but I know people who do. I'm going to figure that out. What I do know is I know how to sell something. I can sell something. And I can teach you how to pivot. Those are the 6 secrets to problem solving for business. So, what does it cost to work? I told you I'm going to give you an opportunity to work with me. Put the ericsaid.com now. Put that in there, put your email address, takes you to a website. Typically, working with somebody to do this, I charge $250 or $2,500 a month. That's typical. And then following that, there's a minimum of $1,000 a month follow-up. But today, you get 3 months for $497 a month. That's a 70% discount on the program. And in addition to that, I give you a ton of other things. One of the things that I give you is I created a program about a year ago on Facebook live streaming. I have since done, I've done more than 100 today. I created that. I've updated it since then. But I've since done more than 400 Facebook live streams, causing me to probably be in one of the top 2 or 3% of people in the country who've done live streams. Okay? I have a book which I promised I was going to give to you, and it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Networkers. Get 2 30-minute personal calls with me. I help you market your business on Facebook for free for 2 weeks. Then I'm going to do something that I have been doing for years because it's here in Huntsville. It's harder to do it when it's somewhere else, but I'm going to do it when it's here in Huntsville. And that is one of the most difficult things that you can do is your spouse doesn't understand, or your significant other doesn't understand this whole entrepreneur thing. They just don't get it. They're not supposed to get it. You're supposed to get it. And sometimes you need to talk to somebody about that in their presence. And so I've been offering to do this now for a long time, and it's been very, very helpful to people. I will take you to dinner. I will pick up the tab, and that makes it even better, okay? I'll pick up the tab, and we will discuss your business or business concept or product that you want to launch or the challenges that you face in front of your spouse, where they can ask questions. They can say, that's the stupidest thing they ever heard of, and it's safe. And you know why I started doing that? Because I found it difficult to talk in front of mine. And she's my greatest supporter. And then 3 times a year we do a mastermind event. And I can't always tell you what that discount will be. I can just tell you I will discount my portion of the mastermind. All right, sometimes I do them in addition with somebody else. I do one with a young woman named Angela Crudger. She's over in Atlanta, Georgia. Angela is a complete rock star. She's an amazing person. And she charges a lot. And so I can't discount her portion because I don't have authority to do that. But we do a mastermind together, and we will do that. That's where you find the data. If you fill that out, you will see that all that entire offer made on the next page that takes you to. But
Eric, this is my problem with technology. So I made it to Eric said, and I don't know if Eric I think I typed it wrong. But we can just talk about this later.
We will. Because I have 2 things that are leaving very quickly. One's my voice, and the other one's the time we have left. So does anybody, we have 5 minutes. Anybody have a question before we go?
I saw your thing, you give 30-minute phone calls. Is that just like introductory, get to know who you are, what services? No,
this is a deep dive in what.
So I guess, when do you start paying?
Okay, the pay starts immediately. I have a process that I walk you through, and that process we do on a Zoom call, phone call, video conference call. Sometimes we'll do it over lunch, but I can do that here in Huntsville because I eat every day, and so obviously more than every day, and so we can do that. So that starts immediately. That's a specific process that we walk through. Sometimes what will happen is somebody will say, man, that's really cool, but I got this problem over here and I need to talk to somebody about it. Okay, tell me what it is, and I'll see if I can find somebody that can help you with it. Okay, that's what those 2 phone calls are for. All right? That's in addition to the other stuff as we walk through the process. Amazingly enough, those 2 calls become really important at some point. And sometimes that's the feedback from the dinner. Didn't know that was going to happen. All of a sudden there's this concern, or there's this relief, or whatever it is, and it can be helpful. So that's what that is. Does that make sense? Yeah. Any other questions? When I was filling out the stuff for Renee to do this, I've had my 3-year-old grandson in my house for the last week. It's been a long time since I had little kids in my house. I have 5 grandkids, but it's been a long time since he's the youngest of the rest of them. It's been a while. And we're in a different house than we were when we started. And so nothing is where I thought it was. I don't even think my couch is where I thought it was. And this morning, I got in my truck. I took him back to the airport last night to send him home with his mom. And he tried to sabotage my truck. The windshield wipers were turned on full blast. The heater was on instead of the air conditioner. Everything you can imagine was done differently. And so the papa couldn't take him to the airport. That was the plan. But while I was doing this, I reached over and grabbed, because I needed something to write on, reached over and grabbed a notebook, laid it on down, and I was writing on the top of this, fill out the stuff for Renee. And I was thinking about this offer right here. And I flipped open that book and I looked at it and I went, oh, this is when I used to offer this for $10,000 for a weekend. And that was the notes from my $10,000 a weekend project. So sold that many times. As a matter of fact, that happened to be one that was personalized for that particular period. And I thought, this is really a special deal. So I wanted you to know that. All right, any other questions? Gosh, you've been the most agreeable audience I've ever had. Maybe. All right, let's get out of here.